victory here under the beautiful lights of Fremont Street. We saw Ashley Blaze gain a victory over one of the members of Top Tier, and now tonight she teams with a sensation that the industry is all talking about, Xena Phoenix.
Who told you that?
You know, and we all have our 15 minutes of fame, and I'd like to take a couple of my 15 minutes to talk about the rights and the wrongs in the world of professional wrestling.
And it is for the WWE Championship.
This match is for the ECW World Heavyweight Championship.
The World Heavyweight Championship.
The match and new NWA Heavyweight Champion of the world.
We appreciate you guys coming out and taking your time to support women's wrestling in America.
This match is for the AWA World Heavyweight Wrestling Championship.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Rights and Wrongs Pro Wrestling Podcast. This is your host, Mr. Green. And, yes, a little bit of fun there. The comments made by one David McClain, because the industry is talking about Xena Phoenix. You know, it's certainly not a slight on that young lady. I think she's loaded with potential. We'll put it that way. But the industry talking about you, all I'm going to say is, as the old line went, don't believe the hype. I would not buy into what Dave McClain is saying on TV just because he's saying it. Like, what industry? Who? When have they had this conversation? What promotion or promoter or fan base or media website, podcast or otherwise has brought up, like, you know who's really hot right now? That Xena Phoenix. I mean, maybe she'll get there, but it ain't happening right now, especially not when there's probably like a dozen other women on the indies that have shooter gimmicks and probably have traveled a lot more. See Lindsay Snow or see legit Layla Hirsch. Anyway, those are just two that came off the top of my head. How are you? And are you ready for another edition of looking at WoW and all this good wrestling, wholesome entertainment, blah, blah, blah? Well, I wasn't when this came on, but I watched it anyway. And I have to say, WoW is an interesting anomaly. That's probably the best way I could put it. I mean, it's a wrestling show that doesn't really quite cater to wrestling fans. It's on in the middle of the night, but it feels like it's made for children. I mean, it's got a lot of that stuff going on in it. It'll have a good match in it, you know, periodically. But almost no one ever talks about when they do have a match there periodically, or a good match there periodically. It just kind of falls to the wayside. I honestly don't know with WoW on multiple occasions. And then, you know, I get things like this, where it's nice matches, but as stated on a lot of different occasions, it's all the things around it. You know, coworker of mine, I haven't used his name. I probably should come up with an alternate like I did with Maestro and Miss Newhire for him. But he looked at WoW, and this is the one that does actually watch and enjoy wrestling and whatnot. And he gave me his 2 cents on it. And I felt like it was worth bringing up. It's like, you know, this show just reminds me of something that's just there for people that happens to be flipping through the channels. And I'm thinking, how so? And he's like, if you just look at WoW on the surface of it being WoW, and you don't know anything about it, you just happen to flip by the channels and you come across it, it can be an entertaining show that day. You can see the matches, you see the, you know, it's very well lit, the production is good, nice looking women, you know, tights, etc., etc. Like if you're just flipping by and you happen to see that, it'll be, it's just fine. It's like if the problem kicks in once you start watching it more than once or twice. Well, I should say more than like 2 or 3 times. Because at that point, now you're expecting continuity. You're expecting it to line up. You're expecting it to kind of make sense, or you're expecting to learn something or get somewhere, have sort of connection with things like that. It's designed in theory for you to come back and watch it, but it's also seemingly not designed for you to come back and watch it because it could be out of order. It can have things that just didn't take place yet. It'll do weird little incremental temporal things, even though it's not a time travel issue, but you get what I'm saying. They can do things like that and it can throw you off. But again, he just went back to, if you're just looking at it for the sake of it, looking, just, hey, there's a show on TV. If you're just looking at it for that, and I was like, it'd be fine. And I had to agree. If it's just a matter of watching the show for the sake of seeing the show, it could be perfectly fine for you. Once you start raising the expectation, as I have with WoW, to have some continuity or make me care about the people or make me care about the issues or why did they do this or why did they do that. It's like once you get into that mode, then it's like it starts going, off the rails. And yes, I would agree. And this episode was not any different, but we will get to that as we move forward. I just had to take a little second there to, I guess, vent that out. Also, I have made a mistake. I apologize, and I'm going to correct that right now because I did not go into the profiles that are listed on WoW to appropriately put across the gimmick of one, Drusilla Blade and Lindsay. Hello, Lindsay Ray Gunn left a comment and corrected me about that. And to let me know that it's not a vampire hunter, it's a weapons expert, which I immediately found stupid. And she took the time to put a little blurb in from their site, and I read that. I was like, oh, God, is this actually coming from their website? And I had to go and look. First off, before I even begin to read that, Lindsay, thank you for pointing out to me that the gimmick was off, but come on, you look at this. Look at her. Look at Drusilla Blade. It's very easy to look at it and be like, oh, yeah, she must be doing a vampire hunter gimmick. She must be Blade. Must be some weird offshoot gender reversal of Blade or something like that. Now, why are they doing that now? I don't know. I mean, the sunglasses, the two swords, the little emblem on the outfit, the pseudo leather. You can see where I'm going with this. But since it was pointed out to me, I feel like I should read some of this so that what I'm about to say following that will make some sort of sense. So this is the profile that is listed for Drusilla Blade. You know what? I am going out of my normal route. Before I read this, let me cue myself for news, views, and updates. All right, so now we can proceed. If you just popped in and you jumped into the chapter marker of this, then let me reset the table just a tad. And that of the previous podcast, I was going through some of the people that were being introduced into the show. And one of those was a character, and I expressed the term character, named Drusilla Blade. Drusilla Blade, upon seeing it, I said, okay, this has to be a vampire hunter gimmick. But again, Lizzie Ray Gunn was kind enough to give me the update and give me the little blurb from their profile that they have listed on their website. You can go and read this at any given time. And I would like to take a moment to read this to you. So, Drusilla Blade grew up in Kokomo, Indiana, a small town that never embraced her. Half Filipino, half white, Drusilla faced prejudice, isolation, and ridicule. Sports couldn't save her. Acceptance never came, so darkness began to stir. When Taekwondo and sword fighting entered her life, the steel spoke to her, and she listened. She didn't just wield the blade, she became it. Where she once muttered, now she roars. Where she once hid, she now strikes. A figure from her past weapons training, Genesis, brought Drusilla to Wild Women of Wrestling. Needing a bodyguard, Genesis sought out the ultimate weapon, and Drusilla Blade was the only person Genesis could trust. Don't get it twisted, each superhero stands on their own. But in a world of as cutthroat as WoW, Genesis was forced to bring in backup. Inside the WoW ring, Drusilla doesn't just swing a sword, she is the sword. Every limb is sharpened, every move designed to cut down anyone in her path. She isn't here to play nice. She's here to carve her legend, slash through the competition, and leave the roster in pieces. I give her a season before she's out the door. Now, having read that, let's start off with the obvious. First off, none of these things have happened yet. Genesis brought Drusilla to Wild. Why is she even up there with this thing that hasn't occurred? I mean, I guess they don't care what they have on their website. They probably like, whatever. But what does it matter that we haven't introduced her on TV yet? We have her here. But the idea that it was Genesis that brought her in, I just, find laughable. First off, are we supposed to feel sympathy for her, or are we supposed to be afraid? It's like they always want you to feel sorry for or feel sympathy for whoever it is that they got on the Wild roster, but then they'll go right off into they might murder you, or something ridiculous like that. It's Genesis. Okay? It's Genesis, who's been there for, I guess, ever since the official reboot that WoW has gone through. But my gosh, she came in as part of a team. The leader of that team disappeared, so she declared herself the leader of said team. Then fought to be officially the leader of that team, only to dissolve it later because she didn't want to be partners or need or want anybody. And now that she's lost multiple times, apparently she needs and wants somebody, so she goes out and gets Drusilla Blade, who's a weapons master, a perfect fit for pro wrestling. What is she going to do with these two swords? Why would that be the person that you would go out and seek for help? She is never going to use these blades. So it's pointless. And side note, I just talked about this on a previous podcast. Like, hey, if WoW has ever had a gimmick that they wanted recycled to any degree, they'll just find some other person to step in and do something relatively similar. Dagger. Yeah, remember her? Dagger. Somebody that came out there with two long blades, showed them off and put them to the side, never to be used. Why are you coming out there with things that you know full well you are never going to use? They are just props. They're just there for TV. And her being a weapons master in WoW means absolutely nothing. She's not even on the screen yet, and I'm already saying it means nothing. If she turns around and does something that changes my mind or makes me like, okay, she actually did slice this girl's stomach open. Then I'll apologize. But up until I see that, or even that she even attempts to use it, I will not change my mind until I see those things. It's just more nonsense because we have to have this character and put them on TV whether it means something to this program or not. What kind of stupidity would it be for just to be like, I need a bodyguard in this place. I know. Let me get this sword fighter. Opposed to, in a real world setting, let me find somebody that actually is a good fighter and can defend me with their fist or feet or something like that here, and I don't have to worry about it. This, every reason that I'm like, WoW is just doomed to be where it's at, because it's gimmick and character first, connection to the audience. I don't even want to say second or third. It's probably like fourth or fifth down the line, because as long as I can get them on TV and we can show, them in their costumes and whatnot, and I express the term costume. As long as we can do that, then, the world is happy. So, I don't know. And I'm sure when I get introduced to the rest of them, I'll probably feel the same way. Maybe not as bad as Drusilla Blade, because the other one with the tennis, the tennis racket has already been used in wrestling for a long time. We've seen it. But how is it going to be used with Brooklyn Love or, whatever the case may be? Is he actually going to use it? Most of them don't even bother with using some sort of weapon. Genesis come out with nunchucks for about 2 or 3 years now. I don't know if I've ever seen him use him. I don't know if I've ever seen her. Sorry, Genesis. I don't know if I've ever seen her use those things once. I don't know if I've seen it not one time. Take a working shot to somebody's stomach, throat, head, anything. They're just there because it's just a prop that needs to be there on TV, because people have to know that you know how to use nunchucks. People need to know that this weapons master is a weapons master, even though she'll never use this weapon here. It's so ridiculous. So ridiculous and stupid. It is that time of year again. We've already gone through it once before, but the PWI 250 Women Wrestlers of 2025. And much like the last 2 times I've done this, there are no WoW talents that are listed. At least not in the incarnation of being in WoW. Now, before we go any further with that, I think it's fair to say, the PWI is the PWI, and they have their own criteria. So regardless of whether there's people that's talented in WoW or not, the criteria speaks for itself, and at least they've done that much to try to let you know, okay, these are the parameters that by which we're operating behind. And B, there's way too many people out there for them to ever get everybody listed. The only reason that it even comes up with me that no WoW talent is listed, well, really two, because one, in the WoW Reddit room that I sometimes pop into and frequent, I think once a year when this comes around, there's a post like, look at these WoW girls that, got listed on the PWI top 250. But every time I see that, they're never listed as the WoW persona that they were in. They're never credited for it either. If anything, the closest that you might get is a minor blurb. Like, this person worked there a while, and then they'll just move on. Nothing that they did within Wow's ring had any merit towards them getting on that list. And I know I brought it up before. The prime example here would be the difference between a Nikki Nashville and a J-Rod. Nikki Nashville isn't listed in anything. J-Rod is. And you can go on and on and on with that. Because she isn't the only one. And I know from previous conversations, it can be a little disappointing if you're on the WoW roster and you know, are a wrestler and you don't even get considered or listed. I know that could be very disappointing. Understandably so. But I do think, as I stated earlier, that you have to take into account that there are a lot of talents out there. And two, not just the amount of talents, because the indies seem to get scoured before they even begin to touch WoW. The criteria by which they pick their talent pretty much negates WoW personnel or WoW roster members just off the rip. I'm sure they don't do it on purpose, but the WoW talent, just based on the schedule alone, would not ever qualify for this. There's almost no reason on any given year, unless these criteria change, for anybody on their WoW roster to look for their name within that. Because in theory, there's no way for you to possibly be on it. Not an indictment of whether you're good or bad in the ring. It's just, there you go. So I'm going to read now the criteria that the PWI likes to implement when they're going through this. 1, in-ring achievement. And includes wins and losses and record championships. Well, your win-loss record and your championships. That alone probably will negate a fair chunk of people. I don't think they've gone so what's the word I'm looking for? As far as what the WWE used to do back in the day. You remember the old 50-50 booking? They had a moment in time where it's like, you win one, I win one. You win this week, I win next week. They went through a good portion of 50-50 booking. But they got out of it because 50-50 booking doesn't really work. I won't go so far to say that WoW does 50-50 booking as bad, but it's not that far off. Not completely. There are some people there that are probably not seen enough for their records to matter. That's one of the things that we had talked about with this, is that you can see somebody this week on TV and then you might not see them again for like 2 months. Which is, in this case, in this instance, it would affect your win-loss record. But let us continue on. Now, I forgot to also include in that first achievement list tournaments they count that as well. Wow. The last thing that they want to try to do is a tournament. They've never had a great tournament. They've never had a consistent or cohesive tournament. So that's probably going to knock them out of the rankings too. The second one is influence, visibility, and prestige within the promotion and or the industry. Now, within the promotion, of course, it's within the promotion. Your own island. Whoever's seen in there is whoever's seen in there. I would tend to believe that they're top-ranked people that would be seen more often than not. All members of the Fab Four, Holly Swag, the Truckers. The Truckers, I guess they're not that anymore. Big Rigs and Bourbon, I mean. Quite possibly Animal Instinct. They've had a lot of airtime, top tier. Within that, they would have visibility. They don't necessarily have the prestige. Within their promotion, maybe. And that's, I say maybe. But within the industry, certainly not. Which goes back to that clip that you heard at the beginning of this. Like, the industry's talking about, that. Not a knock on Xena Phoenix, but no one's talking about her like that. No one addresses the accomplishments, the match, or except for that hardcore WoW faithful, and it doesn't bleed out. It's not one of those things that the wrestling landscape is talking about. So they don't carry that kind of prestige because they don't have that kind of influence. Technical ability. That's number 3. Variety of moves, quality of matches, in-ring storytelling. Again, you've got people on that roster that can do this just fine. This is probably some of their strong suits. Where it starts to lack, and I promise I'm not just saying this, but just to take shots at WoW, but I do truly believe it hurts some of them like this, and I'll use Santana Garrett as an example, because I know I've said it about her at least twice. It feels like they have given her what should have been a 20-minute match that she had to condense down to 5. It's hard to do storytelling within those parameters. Every match, regardless of what's at stake, main event, championship match, allegedly a match of revenge, regardless of what it is, it's usually going to be about 12 to 13 minutes tops. You might have one that goes beyond or went beyond that, but that's the exception, not the rule. And everybody can't really squeeze in a story within a 5-minute match. It can be done. Don't get me wrong, it can be done. But are the WoW talent, the bulk of them, able to do it? Now, there's some out there that I think would be perfectly capable of getting in there and, okay, I got 5 minutes and be able to construct something around that. But then you have other ones that, not me saying it, but these other people saying, hey, look, they have to practice this, days in advance in order to be able to get the match out. And if you're falling into that category, then no, they're not going to give you a nod for technical ability. They'll give you a nod for memorization. I remembered the tumble routine that I'm supposed to do when I get into the ring. And that would be probably as good as this. And that takes a certain amount of skill too. I'm not knocking it. It just doesn't qualify here. Then you go to number 4, competition. Success against the most varied and highest quality opponents. Well, that alone is going to disqualify WoW. Because WoW doesn't take in a lot of varied opponents from outside source. So what you're stuck with is, in some cases, veterans having to work with or carry people that are fairly fresh in the industry, in some cases brand new. And then you have other cases where you got the blonde leading the blind. And you got a spot in between that, but it's probably more like a mix where you have a young, fresh-faced rookie, but they're pretty good at it with a veteran that can help them along. But as far as competition goes, I don't think that PWI, or for that matter, any other wrestling outlet, is going to look at the WoW roster and be like, yeah, this thing is loaded with high caliber, high quality talent from top to bottom. It's going to be filtered with high quality talent in there. But that's the problem. They're filtered in amongst a bunch of other people who probably have no intention of staying in wrestling once WoW is done in their life. And then here's the most important one, or I guess the two most important are coming up. The activity. Minimum 10 singles matches or total, barring this 6 such matches in separate months. So your activity level in wrestling is going to account for something. You should have had at least 10 single matches within the course of a year, is basically what they're saying. Now, we all know full well that there's some people that's on that roster that are not going to have anywhere more than 6, 7, a couple of, they might have got up to 10, but it's pushing it, because you got people that once that taping is done, they don't wrestle again. They just leave and then they come back when the next taping is up. It's not like you see, hey, Genesis is showing up at House of Glory to take on Eddie Hartwell. You know what I mean? That doesn't happen. It's not like you see Animal Instinct out here running the independents. It's not like you see Scout Parker popping up and, Shine Wrestling going after the Shine Nova champ, whatever. Once WoW is finished, a lot of them are finished with it. And that's, again, not a knock to them specifically, but that's what happens. And then you have the evaluation period, which is the course of the year. The evaluation period for this one is October 1st through October 1st, 2024 through September 30th, 2025. So if those things were not met within that time frame, they would never be listed. Now, I only bring that up again, like I said, because we've gone through this, I think, at least twice already, where when I talked about it, I was contacted about it being not fair. And I sympathized and I felt for that person, because I'm sure they feel like they do just as much work, or they work as hard, at least, maybe not as much, but they work as hard. And I can't say that. I can't say that they don't, especially when you're going someplace and you're doing marathon tapings. And you're going to have to wrestle, quite possibly 3 or 4 times a night. Which also probably isn't really good for them, but that's neither here nor there at this point. But I can understand how that, being overlooked in that regard would make you feel some kind of way. However, they make their own rules. And the rules in this particular case are their criteria must be hit in order to have that particular, that, I was going to say award. It's not an award. Is to be listed amongst that ranking. Now, having gone through that, what you can do is you can jump on the Ring the Bell Diva Dirt Women's Wrestling Fan Awards from 2025. And you can pick all the nominations and whatnot. You probably need to go to Diva Dirt that's diva-dirt.com in order for you to see what it is that you're voting for or rooting for, or whatever the case may be. They have a bunch of categories. And I think that they're asking for you to nominate someone that should be involved in said category. So this is all alleged to be fan-based. So you have your options here, or at least you will control the outcome. It's not picked on by the industry experts such as the PWI, and experts take it or leave it. I know somebody out there is like, expert. But you get what I'm saying. This is less of that and more of somebody that can just get on the computer and cast their vote type of deal. So what do they have here for you to vote for? Well, let's go down the list. And you can nominate who you want. Feud of the year. What was your favorite feud of the year? Which feud made you want to see rematches and a continuation in their storyline? Best gimmick. Whose gimmick made you stay invested in the character? Best finish. Which talent has the best finisher of the year? Best promo. Who gave the best promo of the year with those excellent mic skills? Best return / surprise. Whose return to surprise appearance was the best this year? This can be a return from someone as a current roster member or a talent returning to the company. There were many. Choose wisely. Best tag team / stable. Which tag team or stable was your favorite throughout 2025? Best ring gear. We know some ladies bring it every time they come down to the ring, but what one specific look was the best of the year? Please include the look in the event in your response, i.e. Tiffany Stratton's WrestleMania gear. Best feel. I'm just combining stuff now. Not feel, heel. And best space and heel. That's what I meant to say. Who was the best babyface of the year and made you want to cheer them on? Which wrestler made you boo them and was the top heel of the year? Best social media presence. Which wrestler had the best social media presence this year? Selfies, cracking jokes, hyping up kayfabe, etc. You know, I might have to give Chelsea Green that. She might get my vote for that one. Either her or B3CCA. Most memeable moment. Who had the most memeable moment of the year? Whether it be a botch, a funny moment, or even a serious one that could be turned into a meme. I will skip that. WTF moment of the year. Which specific moment in 2025 had you literally saying, what the? Stipulation match of the year. There are many stipulation matches throughout the year in many promotions. Which one was the best? One to watch in 2026. There's so much talent in the wrestling industry. Who do you think has the potential to be a top star in 2026? Think of someone who hasn't become a breakout star but will be next year. Best theme. Who had the best theme song in wrestling this year? Best valet / non-wrestler. Who was the best non-wrestler of the year? Manager, valet, authority figure. Breakout star 2025. Who's your breakout wrestler that made you a fan through 2025 and shined bright? It should be someone who previously has not been a breakout in the industry and has put a lot of eyes on themselves for the first time. Match of the year. What was the match of the year? Please be specific in your choice. What event / show it took place on and who were all involved. And finally, wrestler of the year. Which wrestler had the best overall year? Those are the categories for the fan awards. Now, of course, you can do some write-ins, or I shouldn't even say write-ins. This entire thing is write-in. You can send in as many wild names as you feel like it. Send them on down in there. Your match of the year, wrestler of the year. I don't know who you would actually put in some of these. Stipulation of the year. I mean, they've had so many stipulation matches that stunk so bad. I can't, I don't know if I could ever even begin to suggest that. I don't know if I've even heard a theme enough for me to be like, yeah, this theme song's the best. Match of the year, they've all kind of blurred together. Wrestler of the year, same thing. I guess I'm doing the WoW version. Since WoW exists in its own bubble, if they just want to placate the talent that's there, they should just do their own internal awards and be fine. And that way he didn't have to acknowledge the universe that's around him. He being Dave McClain, can live through the words that Paul Heyman said about Vince McMahon. And that Vince McMahon didn't like the universe that he lived in, so he created his own. Now, I don't know if McClain will ever get that close to creating his own universe, but he has created his own bubble. So he can have his own awards if he felt like it. I doubt that'll happen, but he could. Who would I put in these things? I mean, their feuds are pretty, they suck pretty bad. It never made me really feel one way or the other about anybody. Best gimmick. Well, no one there really stays in character. The second that day off, they're like, I shelter, homeless dogs and, take orphan children for walks or whatever. Even when they're supposed to be bad on TV. So I don't know if anybody there has a gimmick that would make me feel that way. Beyond the fact that you can look at the costume. I mean, you should probably get an award to maybe the costume maker in terms of look. Might not be the best stuff to wrestle in because I don't know if they're gear makers, but that's neither here nor there. I don't know if they had anybody there. The best finisher. I don't know. Some of those finishers change pretty infrequent. They might use it one week and then flip to something else. You know what? If this was going to be a WoW themed best finisher, Fab Jab. It's the most protected finisher that WoW has. Go with that. I don't think anybody there has cut what I would say is the best promo. Like, nothing stands out in my mind as, like, listen to this. You gotta just get you hyped for whatever this situation was. I don't I don't think anybody. The best return or surprise, well, they don't have any of those, regardless that they've had like 2 or 3 returns. But nothing that it would get anyone excited other than, maybe McLean himself. Best tag team or stable? Well, I guess by default that would have to be the Fab Four. I mean, I didn't like the angles that they had, but at least they had championships that were involved in it that means something to the overall status of the company, rather than just, we're trios champions, we're the greatest team ever, nobody can beat us, rather than that. But they might have the best ring gear. Top Tier has a pretty good look. I actually also liked the simplicity of Parker's gear. Gianni has good gear there. She has a very good look. I don't know if I can say Garrett because they watered her look down by having her being attached to an Americana. So yeah, I guess those would be the ones. There is no best face. There is no best heel. There is no best social media presence. There is no memeable moment except for the botch that we just saw with Genesis, which would also probably qualify as the what the fuck moment of the year. Stipulation match. Like I said already, they suck at stipulation, so no. I know that they want to say Xena Phoenix would be the one to watch in 2026. I'm not convinced. And the best valet / non-wrestler would be Lana Starr. Can't hear the themes clearly enough for me to say that. Match of the year. Now, the match of the year would be the steel cage match. It just didn't really have any angle or story that was good to match up with it. And who knows? Wrestler of the year, I have not a damn clue. Not out of there, anyway. All right, so I mean that was just off the top of my head run. I wasn't expecting to do that, but since I had already started, I just figured might as well just keep it on going. Before we go to the review, 2 things. 1, as of this recording, the match that is going to feature WoW talent outside of a WoW ring has not occurred yet. So I wanted to go down there and see it. I had every intention of just going and making the drive. It's probably about 2.5 hours for me. But, depending on what time of day I decide to get them go. But with the promoter not really being able to offer up a good place to do interviews, and the talent that I wanted to interview needing to leave in relative short order following the show, I was like, that's probably not worth me taking a near 2.5, possibly 3 hour drive, getting a room and all this. That's just not worth it. But I am curious as to see who did what, so I'm going to try to keep my eyes out for it. I'm probably going to reach out to the talent about whether they obtained a video or not. I would assume that they would, but I can't count on that. But for kicks and giggles, try to keep it relatively clean, I did include in our Talking the Talk segment a little bit later promos from these two individual teams. And I must say, beyond the fact that I'm not overly fond of the intercut and the B-roll and the music is a little overpowering, the Miami Sweets promo was pretty good. Lindsay was pretty good here. I thought she had the line of the promo. It's just a shame that I think it kind of gets buried underneath the music and the intercut of video. But when it gets to it, you should take a listen, and also you should see the opponents that they're going to face. I am interested to see what they are going to be able to do once they're outside of the protective coating that is WoW. So we'll stay tuned for that, see how it turned out. And on a less glamorous note, Rebel from TNA announced that she is dealing with a form of cancer. She had a video that she put up is on her Instagram. It's about 5 minutes long, where she is expressing, for lack of a better term, how she discovered it. Because she wasn't aware that, she thought it was like an illness that she just couldn't shake. And when she went in, I guess, to be examined, that's when she discovered she had it. So I say all that to say, if you are looking for specifics about it, because I was going to put the video on, but like I said, it's about 5 minutes long. And I think I would rather just send you to her page to check that out, or her Instagram, and I can see how she's dealing with it, for lack of a better term. I mean, it is. If you're going to look, just be prepared. It can be a little heartbreaking. She's clearly very emotional in this, as you would expect one to be under these circumstances. If you're used to seeing her in knockout / superhero mode, wrestling star mode, she's all that's kind of stripped away here. She's just, her just a normal human being in this, and it shows. So, just take that with a grain of salt. Whatever support that she might be looking for, if you can offer it, I would certainly suggest that you do that. And again, if this is something that you are wanting more information on, and to understand what the issues are out of her own mouth, then you can go to her Instagram, and she has the video there available for you to watch, and you can hear it in her own words. All right. Not trying to be a Debbie Downer here, but I felt like it's something that needed to be shared. So now that we've done that, let's get over to our Talking the Talk segment. Try to bring the energy back up. We'll go through there. We'll hit the musical interlude, and then when we come back, we will jump off into the review. Stay tuned.
It is the tallest woman in professional wrestling, Rose Gold, and I am here with the baddest chick in the room, Jazz. Now, I want y'all to take a good look at us and see that we clearly are going to be the most dominating women's tag team anyone's ever seen. So, on November 28th at Kingdom Pro Wrestling, Miami Sweet Pea, you have no idea what you've gotten yourself into. You see, you just don't measure up to us. I understand you've been everywhere, and y'all are really good, but you're not us. So Jazz, tell them what we gonna do.
November 28th, we're gonna beat that ass.
Period.
Rose Gold, you keep bragging that you're the tallest woman in professional wrestling. That's cute, because you're gonna need a lot more than height when you step in the ring with Miami Sweet. When you're across from us, you're gonna realize that we're 10 foot tall, we're bulletproof. You better bring a lot more than your long legs and your attitude. Yes, I heard you loud and clear. You're gonna whoop that ass
And we are back. And it's time to go into, well, as of this recording, the most recent episode of WoW, and that is going to be, here's a slate, episode 410, season 4, episode 10, title Moment of Truth, the air date 11/15, November the 15th, and a chronological number 166. We have our opening video, the opening of the show. I don't know if the song has really won me over quite yet, but that's neither here nor there. Side note, does anybody listen to that Heroes and Heels things? I know I brought it up before. I said that's got to be AI. It has to be. It just sounds like garbage. But anyhow, I'm not even sure they still have it on the website. Anyway, so we start off. And Nigel begins saying that it's the rematch we've all been waiting for tonight. What rematch? What are we talking about? Rematch from what? It's a cold main event. I didn't know what this was referencing. I tried to look through a couple of my notes to see if maybe they had some match and I'm just forgetting it. They being Animal Instinct and Garrett and Aussie. I don't know what he was talking about. It seemed like a random comment. Did I just imagine him saying that? If anybody knows differently about what was said at the beginning, please say something, leave a comment, correct me or whatever. But it felt like another one of these cases of here's something that's completely out of context that no one knows what he's talking about, and I certainly don't know what it is. I flipped through some of the notes that I have, but if I took a picture of all the notes I have available to me, I was like, it's way too many pages of that for me to go scanning through bit by bit. And believe me, when I say I got a lot of these, I have a bunch. I should take a picture of this stack. Anyhow, the next segment is the first match of the show. Is the Brat Pack versus Xena Phoenix and Ashley Blaze, which is where I got the earlier soundbite from, where he's trying to put Xena Phoenix over as the next hot ticket, or I shouldn't even say next, as the current hot ticket according to him. Is the one that the industry is talking about. I don't know what industry he means. Can't be the wrestling industry, but it's the one the industry is talking about. And he also starts putting over the history that was made with Ashley Blaze when wrestling the first match here on Fremont Street and winning against Top Tier and such and da-da-da-da-da. Already in the ring is the Brat Pack. Gigi Gianni and BK Rhythm. I think once you saw the babyfaces walk out, you knew where this was going. And this was not any different. They did what you would expect for the Brat Pack to do. They went out, they wrestled the match, tried to make the opposing team look good, which they did, and that was basically it. I mean, they had some good points in it. We certainly can't just turn around and be like, oh man, this match sucked. No, the match didn't suck at all. It just, I don't know if it was necessarily what I was looking for. I mean, Ashley Blaze, good wrestler. Xena Phoenix, still learning. Brat Pack, good wrestlers. There's nothing there that I would be willing to sit and complain about. It's only been the stuff that's just around them. If you're just looking at the match for the merit of the match, I don't really see any particular problems, issues, or any of the above that you could go with as far as this is concerned. I mean, they have what you would call it, I would consider a standard wrestling match. I won't even say a standard WoW match, or standard wrestling match. I got the impression that while watching this, that they seemingly want to make Xena Phoenix into something, but also never got the impression that WoW was really particularly good at making somebody into a star or making them into like, oh man, this is somebody that you need to talk and see and watch wrestle and all that stuff. I never really got that impression off of WoW at any given point. So I don't know if this will work, but that is the impression that I got. She starts off the match, she being Xena Phoenix with Gianni. She starts off hot, tries to go for the armbar. Gianni's able to get the break. She moves really well, does Phoenix. I mean, again, I cannot take anything away from the in-ring performance of any of the four that's going on here. Experience aside, Phoenix did well. The Brat Pack, probably in order to maintain some level of heat, this is one of those points that's like, I wish that there were a heel manager there to try to kind of keep them interesting / propped up, because as it is right now, they're basically just designed to get a win or two here or there and then put the opposition over. That's essentially what their purpose in WoW has become. I still think that as far as in-ring work, one of the best teams there, but they're certainly not utilized as such. There's nothing that will place them remotely close to being like a main event caliber team at this point. I really wish they would leave and just take that act on the road and maybe get some other matches someplace else where they can have a good showcase of what they're doing. But they certainly help make both Phoenix in particular, and Blaze look good. And those two also fulfilled their end of the bargain. I like I would call it somewhat of a sacrifice play that the Brat Pack did at one point. I will say, I know Phoenix is trying to make everything look crisp and cute and a lot of roll throughs and things like that. She may need to chill out on some of that. It might be a bit much. She's wrestling really fast, really aggressively. I don't know if that's necessary for her to do within these 7 and 8 minute matches. She might need to learn her own little get a better pace of her psychology rather than the execution of running around. Let me see if I can slap this on you, grab this, get your leg, roll through, all that stuff. She may need to get the finer little nuances that come with the experience of being in the ring with people like Gianni and Rhythm. But we get Blaze. She makes the tag. She does well too. The sacrifice play that I was talking about a little while ago. Blaze tries to get past Rhythm. Rhythm gives her like a rear waist lock and shoves her body into the corner. She goes in to charge after. Blaze was able to prevent that. Gianni runs down, and before Blaze is able to do anything, grabs her hair and stops her from doing whatever it is that she's trying to do. Right? Blaze is able to get the elbow, knocks Gianni down. There's the sacrifice that gives BK Rhythm enough time to come over there and hook the legs of Blaze and kind of give a front-faced Alabama slam towards the mat. Now the heels are in control, and Blaze is the one that's taking the heat. And they do fine with that. This is, more or less the strong suit. One of the things I would really like to see if I was in control of this universe, Gianni does a nice power slam. That seems to be something that's part of her move set. I wish that she was put into a position where she could really get that thing over as potentially the end, so she can, maybe drag a false finish out of it, rather it just being a move that she pops somebody with and then running off to the next thing. I like her power slam in most cases. I don't know if I liked it so much here because it didn't come off with the snap that I would have liked or preferred, but beggars can't be choosers, I guess. They get their CD cover spot in, and for whatever reason, Xena Phoenix, rather than running across the ring in a straight line to go attack the person that's actually hurting her partner, she jumps down off of the apron and then runs around her in the ring to go run BK Rhythm off, who isn't doing anything other than sitting next to the person that's applying the pressure and the pain. So I didn't necessarily care for that, but again, what are you gonna do? So we get through all of this. We get the hot tag moment. There are points here that I would think that if it were a different environment, it might be taken a bit differently by the viewers at large. That spot I'm talking about in particular is the exchange between Rhythm and Blaze until they both double boot each other in the face. And it sends them down. But that also could be kind of construed as another one of those. It probably would have come off a little better if the match was perceived as a little more grueling to put them in that spot. So Blaze gets the tag. Rhythm gets the tag. Phoenix comes in, and she's now taking on Gianni. And Gianni is pretty much turn into a rag doll and just arm drag here, arm drag there, knee lift. Rhythm comes in, stops the cover for the knee lift. I forgot to mention earlier that Gianni had a great moment when she cuts Phoenix off from what would have been a hot tag. She runs around on the floor, grabs her, and pulls her down on the apron, or off the apron. Even when Phoenix tries to fight back, Gianna just gives her a quick kick and, goes on about her way. I loved it. But back to where we were at the match. Long story short, Phoenix comes in. She hooks in the arm bar, taps her out. 1, 2, 3. Now, again, we're talking about somebody who has developed and shown some great execution on screen. I don't know if this audience has been educated to the arm bar being her thing so that they could get excited about it. So they could be like, oh my God, we'll be able to do it. I don't know if that audience has been put there, and that's seemingly turned into a running theme here. There are points and there's moments where the participants in the ring are doing things that in a different environment might garner a different reaction. Here is just, oh, that looked cool, opposed to, oh, she's about to do that thing. It doesn't seem like the audience here really understood or understands what some of these moves are supposed to mean coming out of that person. So after the tap out and after the win by the Babyfaces, we get McClain in the ring for the post-match interview. This is where I really wish that Phoenix were a better talker. She still ain't there yet. She's still not there yet. She gets a moment to speak. McClain comes in, do his thing, trying to put them over like, they could be the next great tag team in the WoW and all that stuff. And it probably would have been a better thing if they had given the microphone to Blaze. Blaze, I know, can talk. We've already heard her do it. We know that she can. She's comfortable with it. I'm not saying that Phoenix isn't comfortable with it, but she doesn't seem to have anything to say. It's just, there's a new legacy here in the WoW, and, it starts today. Things are going to change. If you notice it changing, I was like, what are you talking about? So it nice words. You know what I mean? It was nice words, but it wasn't really a good promo. I mean, I know Phoenix said something to the effect of the legacy and the WoW changed, and if you didn't see it, you're gonna or you will. And again, I was like, I do not know what you're talking about. It would be maybe a little different if there was some sort of clear, defined legacy that she was looking to change. But I was like, what do you mean? What legacy? What are you changing? But anyway, I don't know. Also, I don't know if he needs to make it blatantly obvious that, well, Ashley Blaze in this particular equation means nothing. It's if you got two people up there, both of them capable of doing a promo or interviewing, you might want to at least get both. But here it's just like straight over. All right, Miss Xena Phoenix, Albanian grappler. Well, let's talk to you. So, yeah, I would tend to try to level that off a little bit more rather than just doing what I said at the beginning. It seems very evident to me that they're trying to put the eggs in the basket of Xena Phoenix. Now, whether that actually does anything, goes anywhere, she becomes a big deal or not, that remains to be seen. WoW does not have a good track record with that. I think that would be fairly obvious to me, but maybe, and that's a strong maybe, but maybe this will be different somehow. I don't know. But the audience didn't seem to care about this. I'm sorry. They are standing around, and other than the family members or friends that was off camera to Phoenix's left, I mean, you probably didn't hear many people excited about it whatsoever. They're just like, and the curse of the Brat Pack continues. Now, next segment, Fury cuts a promo, and she's good at it. She basically reinforces the idea that Monsters and Metal are family, and whereas top tier only teammates, okay, fine. She talks about not Candy Crush, who am I talking about? Glitter. Glitter and Fury being essentially the veterans of their respective teams, which is both, true. Both members of their respective teams probably had nothing to do with wrestling before they got to WoW. So in that regard, yeah, they do. Glitter and Fury both stand out. They both have a wrestling background that precedes joining that company. Which I'm sure, they're probably not allowed to talk about at great length anyway. She advertises, more or less, that Candy Crush is going to take out Chainsaw next week and that she'll beat her before they go after the trios titles. I don't know why it would be necessary that we have to defeat you all individually first before we go after these trios championships collectively when they've already beaten them. They pinned them already. They showed the B-roll of that, even though they showed the B-roll of that victory as she's talking about, and Daisy Lane defeated Coach Campanelli and Chainsaw Dude next. I was like, why are they showing Daisy Lane pinning Candy Crush as Fury is talking about Daisy Lane defeating Coach Campanelli? Not necessarily the visual that goes along with what's being talked about on screen, but whatever, it's your show. And they intend to go in after the trios titles and probably the most single worthless championships in all of professional wrestling. That should be my answer to, we're the greatest team in all of professional. Well, they're carrying around the most worthless belts in all of professional wrestling. So it balances out. The universe is even. The next segment, Gloria Glitter with Top Tier versus Fury with Monsters and Metal. I don't know what the angle here is supposed to be. And I say that because we had just gone through Top Tier as a group with last season losing to Monsters and Metal. And I was fine. And then they tried to heat the angle up by having Candy Crush tear the doll apart. But then, of course, the doll is right back up there. And on camera, they're like, hey, look at this little Daisy stitched back up. And, all right. So it doesn't feel like there's anything to this beyond the fact that they just want to have the match. It's not really positioned as one group being upset with the other. It's not positioned as you wronged me because of my personal property, because the personal property was repaired. is not even positioned as the championships are that big of a deal because we're willing to go through all of these incremental tiny steps in order to get a title shot when they should have just gotten a title shot. They had already beaten the team. Sure, they lost to them first, but then they came back and won. So what is it that you're having to do this for? Why? Haven't we already established that Monsters and Metal is the only other trios team there and that they are capable of pinning them? So what are we waiting for? Why are these incremental matches necessary? Again, other than just to fill out time. So I don't know where's the heat here? Where is it? McClain says something to the effect that the viewership picks up every week. I was like, seriously? You need to prove that. I don't even remember what he said that in reference to, but my ears picked up on that immediately. The viewership picks up every week. Where? How many? Who's watching this? Where are these ratings? I mean, I'm sure if anybody would have access to it, it would be him, but I absolutely, sincerely, truly doubt that that is true by any stretch of the imagination. Because I would feel like if those ratings were anywhere close to picking up, the world would know about it. Not just some internal thing. It would have been leaked. See, look, we have over 500,000 viewers. It's right here, and here's the Nielsen ratings to prove it. But we don't ever see that. It's never talked about. In fact, every time that I've looked for the ratings for the last 2 years, because I think they stopped just shortly after their first season, every time I've even attempted to look for that since then, it never registers. Never. And I can't imagine it's going to suddenly get better when they went over to this big data thing that they were doing, them being Nielsen. So I don't know where he's getting that from. I cannot say that is completely false, but I would absolutely stand by if it is true, it needs to be proven. McClain says that the three of top tier have not been defeated. I was like, all right, sure. I think that did get corrected out of him, but I was like, seriously, bro, how is it that you don't know these things on your own show? Top tier lost 3 matches in a row to Ariel Sky and whoever she was tagged up with that week, which also reminds me, is like, why is top tier even champions of anything? He took a loser squad and just gave them some belts, and then they just, all right, we're indestructible now. So, I don't know. Zayn mentions a title match later. Still, I don't know what match he's talking about. And why is it still in the show? I mean, it's the same stuff I said on every episode that they've had since they've been in Vegas. And within the commentary, they will clearly show you that this is not in sequence of any sort, and that they didn't bother to correct it or remove it or edit it out. The match, again, look, it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. If you want to go and look at the match, go check out the match. I don't think you'll be disappointed with it, for the most part. It's fine. Fury taps out Glitter with the Koji clutch. There you go. And then Top Tier does the same thing that they always do. They went and attacked Fury after the match. I don't know why the two babyfaces was so stupid that they decided to turn away from them when you see this happen once every time you have a match. How many times do you need to get the lesson beat into your head before you understand, hey, maybe we need to pay attention to see that they don't attack our friend? What kind of family member are you? But it's the rule of baby faces in the WoW, I guess. Baby faces are stupid. So while they're being, out of celebrating on the outside, Fury takes a couple of kicks before they come in and run him off. The baby faces will never learn. And it's amazing to me that Top Tier just runs away at the threat of Daisy Lane and Chainsaw. I mean, Daisy Lane in particular. Chainsaw maybe, but like they didn't even come in contact with him. The second they see him, like, oh shit, we got to run, So I don't know. There's only one other thing that gives me this. Top Tier has lost all the singles matches going into this. One of which seems to not count in the lineage of this particular angle because it was Ashley Blaze that won against Candy Crush, opposed to Candy Crush and Chainsaw, which we'll get, in the next episode. So what was that match about? Was that a blow-off for the entirety of the Dojo Defenders and the legs being broke and putting them in the hospital and all that stuff? Was that match supposed to be the blow-off of that? Because if it was terrible. That turns it into being terrible. Especially if you didn't know or advertise or even present it like it was like, hey, this is it. She's getting revenge for all of these things and heinous acts, and that's all you got out of it was just, all right, I got pinfall, yay. I assume that is the blow off because I don't know where else they're going to go with it unless they're just going to magically pop up with the Dojo Defenders again. Anyhow, we get another segment, which is promo for the main event. This is Princess Aussie, Santana Garrett versus Animal Instinct. Then we get the next segment, Princess Aussie, the Princess Aussie segment. It opens with the voiceover of Dave McClain. Well, I shouldn't even say the voiceover. He's sitting right there. One of the things why he's so proud of WoW is because it has no borders, no boundaries. And we have somebody from Australia who came here to WoW. My first question, once I heard that, because, I keep saying it, he's very good at smoke and mirrors. And he presents things in such a way that it sounds just magnificent. But it also presented it like WoW did something unique. What wrestling promotion has borders? I mean, honestly, I'm not saying that as a jab at WoW, but seriously, what wrestling promotion do you think of out there right now that has borders? And I'm sure somebody's like, yeah, WoW doesn't have any borders. Look at that. They brought somebody in from Australia. I'm like, okay, so yes, they did. But was that because of WoW? Was that because she moved from Australia and she happened to be there to audition for WoW? So what border are we talking about? Is it like she didn't have to get something specific to jump into WoW? I doubt that she's like, I'm going to leave Australia and go to America specifically for this wrestling promotion. Never mind the fact that there have been wrestlers who have traveled the world to come to America for different wrestling promotions for decades. So I'm not sure what exactly he's trying to relate when he's like, one thing I'm proud of is it has no borders or boundaries, whatever he said. Most wrestling promotions, unless they are indie that does not have the money, and even they, see, even they have had people who've come in from out of the country. It's not hard to do. APCW has somebody from Japan. It's not overly difficult. Inquire about it. If you got it in your budget, fine. If you don't, oh well, we'll get back with you when we do. It's not some incredible, I mean, not to minimize what he's doing, but it's not some sort of incredible accomplishment. I'm sorry, it's not. Memphis Wrestling had Bill Dundee. He's not from America. Tojo Yamamoto. I mean, these things have been going on for decades, as I just said. So I don't know what exactly it is that he was trying to put it over with. Like, it is great smoke and mirrors. That is probably the one compliment that I will continue to give him, because he takes something that is very minor and presents it like it's some sort of big deal, especially when he's saying it to people who are not following in the wrestling sphere. Because they'll just take that for what it is. Take it with a grain of salt. Yeah, that's great. No borders. All right. Wow. But that's every wrestling promotion. It's every wrestling promotion. And you want to talk about no boy. I mean, not that I'm endorsing with AEW, but AEW took their entire show to Australia. That's a wrestling promotion that doesn't have borders. WOW has open doors. They have borders. Their border is Los Angeles and Las Vegas, and that's it. When they leave out of that area right there, then they can tell me they don't have any borders. Until then, you just have an open door, and you're willing to let people walk into it. But this is a profile segment on Aussie, who even uses her real name. It's a nice sit-down segment. She goes into the how and the why, or how she got there, and there being just America in general. It helps you understand her and the motivations and the personality. She puts WOW over for changing the wrestling landscape for women's wrestling. I expected that she had to do that. So I'm not going to get on her for, making the WOW seem bigger and like it being a flag bearer for the company, more or less, towing the company line. This was good. That's the pro. This is good. The con is that I wrote down as I was watching this is a good segment. I do question why now. Then I also wrote down this was clearly filler material, and it should have happened after the title, when she was going after the title. As nice as this segment was, and it was put together very well, shot well, Aussie presented well. I thought it was very personable. But I'm like, why are we getting this now? This isn't, and I'm sure somebody like, well, why not now? This isn't selling the team. This is not selling this new team of Princess Aussie and Santana Garrett. It's selling Princess Aussie. This was nice to see, but it would have been nicer to see when she was going after the championship or after she won the championship. Something that would have helped me relate to her and want to see her continue to succeed on her personal journey. But that was not the case here. This was, as stated, good segment, feels out of place. Right segment, wrong time. I mean, they couldn't even do one together. So why am I feeling for this team here? This is a singular thing. Now, I know somebody's logic was probably, well, we'll just follow it up with Garrett and that'll make up the difference. And so let's go to that. The next segment was Santana Garrett. She has this following Princess Aussie, and this was more of a standard promo as she's walking down the street, I guess, in her neighborhood, and she's carrying a dog. And I do not know whether somebody told her, hey, say these lines because it'll be good, or she thought that they would be good if she said those lines. But this just, I was like, does no one not understand what the term is? Not the size of the dog in the fight, but the size of the fight in the dog. Do they not understand what that saying means? I mean, it's like they decided to put it in there just because there was a dog in the saying. Because we're going against animal instinct, so I have to use a dog pun. She comes out, is like, I love animals. Cats, dogs, you name it. Except there are two. And then she goes off into that, and you're going to discover that it's not the size of the fight of the dog, or the dog in the fight is the size of the fight in the dog. I'm like, how does this even apply? Y'all are basically all the same size. That saying would have made absolute sense to me, despite the fact that there's a dog reference in it. If it was, say, like, I know she's not there anymore, but let's say Tiki Chamorro was engaged in a feud with Reina Del Rey, and she's coming back for her. She already lost, or whatever the case may be, and she's cutting the promo about she wants a rematch, and then she gives that. It's like, well, Reina about to learn that it's not about the size of the dog in the fight, but the fight of the whatever. Fuck, I don't know. I just lost my pace. You know what I'm saying? It's not the size of the dog in the fight, but the size of the fight of the dog. Then it would apply. It's the statement is the saying of an underdog. It is not about a literal dog. Jesus. So why is she using this? Again, other than the fact that a dog is mentioned in it. And so we have to have our little pun that we could point towards Animal Instinct. It was pointless. This is pointless. Just to be able to stick something animal related in it. If somebody told her to say that, I mean, think about what you're asking them to do before you do these things. This is absurd. And if she did it on her own, somebody should have helped direct this or produce it. Like, why don't you try another one? Because again, I mean, how much bigger are Goldie Collins and Katarina Jinx to those two anyway? It's not like they tower over them or something like that. In fact, it's not even that. There's almost no discernible advantage that Animal Instinct has as it relates to Princess Aussie or Santana Garrett whatsoever. Not in terms of height, not in terms of strength, not in terms of experience, probably not in terms of speed, certainly not in terms of wrestling knowledge. There's nothing there that would make that promo apply to the situation, which turns it into a terrible promo. She delivered it fine, looked good doing it, had a nice smiling face, bright, sunny, was walking with a little tiny dog in her arms. It just doesn't apply. It's just, you know what it's like, and I know everybody's not going to get this one, but my mind's playing tricks on me. Ghetto Boys. They play that song every Halloween. Every Halloween they play that song because there's a mention of Halloween within it. Despite the fact at the end of the song, it's like I felt just like a fiend. It wasn't even close to Halloween. But because they had to open the line of this year, me and my boys went trick-or-treating. Because they had that opening line in it, it became this Halloween song, despite the fact that the lines behind it negate that. That's what this is. It's like I have this promo, and I have a dog that referenced in the promo, so I'll just use this towards Animal Instinct, despite the fact that the words and the context of this promo do not match up. So I don't know. Whew. Okay, so anyhow, we'll move on. And somewhere before this, McLean introduced this as a special tag match. I wrote, why is this special? What's happening here that's supposed to make this thing special? The next segment is the main event itself. Animal Instinct. Goldie Collins and Katarina Jinx versus Princess Aussie and Santana Garrett. I still maintain that if they had been treated properly before we got to this point, Aussie and Garrett, which should have been like their 1 and 1A baby faces. and this team should have been somewhat regarded as like a super team. But they're not, because they're probably not over with that. Kaden Reed Jones does a normal thing. Following contest, one fall. This stuff's not needed, but it just happens. Jinx and Collins come out first. They open up with a promo that the audience didn't seem to get at all or care about. And it's probably about as basic as it could be. And another case of what are you talking about? They bring up questions of Aussie and Garrett's loyalty. First off, they start off suggesting something to the effect of that, our partnership or our loyalty to each other. And Gallus like, oh, certainly not. I was like, why are they even beginning off with questioning their loyalty? What is this? This is like the second time in their existence that they've had this eluded loyalty issue. I've heard a rumor that there's problems between Animal Instinct. What rumor? Where's this from? Who's saying this? I mean, they didn't even go through the measure of like making up a pseudo story for their website for people to read. Just like, oh man, maybe they do have something, but nothing. There's nothing. Why are they saying this in a promo? When there's no vignettes to back it up. There's no hidden camera footage. There's no article. There's nothing that took place. There hasn't even been really a miscommunication in the ring where they're like, hey, what are you doing? None of that has happened. So why? And then we go to them talking about Princess Aussie and Santana Garrett's loyalty. Why? What has happened between them that would even remotely bring up the idea that they might have questionable loyalty to one another? How is this even remotely a suggested issue? So they do that, and they cut their Disney villainous promo like they normally do. And I have to assume that somebody told them, and when you finish saying the line, laugh. Why? What is funny about saying the name of your team? Because we're Animal Instinct. Yes, that's why they're Disney villains. Because that's how they come off. I mean, they're only lacking a cauldron at this point. Or a mirror on the wall. McLean, of course, brings up Katarina Jinx' whip that she never uses. Except to come in there and crack it for the audience, which they didn't give a shit. And so we go to a commercial, they promo for next week. And then we come out back from the commercial and then talking about Fremont Street. They beat it over under the bright lights of Fremont Street. And we now go into the main event of the evening. Aussie and Garrett taking on Katarina Jinx, who, for whatever reasons, Dave McClain, when he says her name, feels the urge to, I guess, adopt an accent. I don't know, Katarina Jinx or whatever he's trying to say. So we get that. I mean, the match was the match. I don't know what to say about this. Beyond the fact that, it was, there are times in it, regardless to how much I like one group or person or the other, where it does feel like it's just like, okay, here's the tumbling routine that we must do. Here's the exchange. We have to, make sure that we do this so people can see us roll back and forth, or I'll take a kick, you take a kick. You duck this one, I'll duck that one. Here's a duck underneath, you duck underneath. That. And it didn't feel quite as organic / natural as it should have. It just, at times, I'm not going to say all the way, but at times, it came across like we're just going through the numbers. And maybe that might have been a different thing if Garrett and Aussie had different opponents to be in their ring with. Because as good as Collins and Jinx look physically, I don't know if they're necessarily at a position where they need to be a main event tag team. That's not to say that they can't get there. They certainly have some level of dedication towards, or at least the effort. But I don't know if they're ready for that quite yet. But, yeah, like the exchange between Aussie and Jinx, where it's like high kick, duck, you know, that. That just felt like it was, all right, this is what we're going to do when we get in there. And lots of wrestlers do that. Not saying that they don't. It just isn't quite as obvious, or it doesn't feel quite as obvious. All of this seemed and felt fine. The audience just kind of was there for most of it. I think they just did not get some of this, quite honestly. I don't know if they felt like there was a close enough connection to either dislike Animal Instinct enough to boo them, or that Aussie and Garrett were likable enough for them to go out of their way to cheer. It just felt very neutral, except for like this group of people that's on the bleachers in the back row, which I would assume probably the family and friends section of WOW. I mean, you see Santana Garrett over at one point there trying to get the crowd to clap and go along with her, but when you're just looking at the video or the visual of it, very few people bothered, which makes me feel like it's just not a wrestling audience. They're just there. Yes, there are some people there that probably like pro wrestling. Yes, there are some that probably understood the fundamentals of what the match was doing and what they were trying to accomplish in there, but they did not get with this whatsoever. But that's just up and down the board. I'm not going to say that's just all of them. So we get the heat on Aussie for the most part. Now, one thing I will say about Instinct is that I like the fact that they have utilized this double suplex thing a couple of times on their shows, or enough for you to get the idea that this wasn't an out the blue thing that they tried. Not, just so they can get the spot across. So they try to go for the double suplex, and Ozzy's able to get out of it. She makes a roll through, get the hot tag, and here comes Garrett. that is after Jinx tries to run over there, and for whatever reason, she just could not land a punch on Garrett, and she gets popped. And then Garrett takes control. She starts beating up on both of them, including the old Muda handspring in the corner against both Jinx and Collins. Collins goes out of the ring, and then we get the old rising sign from Garrett on Collins. I should have said Jinx went out the ring. Collins was in the ring. She was the one that caught the rear waist lock, and she was the one that caught the rising shine. She got put down for that. We got a bunch of they used to call it the air traffic controller spot, where there's a bunch of people running around doing a bunch of things like, all right, you're going to go over here. Here's the big boot. I'm going off the top rope. I'm going to do this and do that. And, you got a bunch of that for a little while, including a double team spot by Animal Instinct where Jinx, more or less, she hits a lung blower on Aussie. Aussie turns around and she gets hit with Cody Collins coming off the top rope on the opposite side of the ring, which I will say I don't know if in a perfect environment that probably wouldn't be the most ideal thing. Because, look, she started climbing up the top rope before anything had ever happened to Princess Aussie. Like, she wasn't down. She wasn't anywhere near it. She just was in the corner after she did what she needed to do, and then she started climbing up the top rope. And then Jinx comes over there, hits her the lung blower. Then Aussie turns around, and she gets caught with the single axe handle coming off the top by Collins. But I guess we could suspend disbelief and say that, well, she was just going to go up there and try something, whether she was doing this, that, or the other or not. That might have been the case. We'll go with that. It just seemed a little bit out of sync for me. So anyway, they go for the cover. Collins goes for the cover. Jinx is too late to stop the save by Aussie, but she is in time to get Garrett back out onto the floor. They send Aussie into the ropes together, looking to go for a double clothesline that she's able to evade. And then Aussie hits both members of Animal Instinct with a double cutter, setting them down 1, 2, 3. Or setting Collins down for the 1, 2, 3. Jinx got hit and rolled out of the ring. I had to reiterate, I think that was one of those cases of that was lost on this audience. Like, it theoretically, that move should have popped the audience, or they should have, oh man, But none of that happened, and I don't know I don't think it was necessarily the talent any of the four of them. I don't necessarily think it was them that caused that. I just don't think the audience was educated to any of this, so they didn't know. It's not like Princess Aussie is noted for using a cutter every time she goes for a pin. That's the first thing. She usually, if I can remember correctly, uses the frog splash. She might set it up with a cutter, but generally speaking, is not what she used to finish things off. And so without that, on the average, it's probably hard for people to follow it. Here is probably worse because they just don't understand. They didn't understand it. So she hits the double cutter, which, again, theoretically should have been a bigger deal. The spot felt like it was wasted on this audience, in my opinion. They didn't seem to get anything out of it. They were just happy that the good guys won. And that was kind of vague at that. So, there are these moments when the WoW talents for the Las Vegas audience seem to be doing more than necessary to try to pop them. Because that crowd has very little, if any, emotional connection to anything. They do pop for the moves, but on camera it doesn't come off like they're really all that invested. And that was that. That was the episode of WoW Women of Wrestling. And I know we got another one that's around the corner. Fortunately for me this time, when I did this episode, I got ahead of it. So I can read the preview because I have not seen the next upcoming episode. I know what's supposed to be on there. But let's read this and see what they've got coming up. The next episode that is due for WoW is episode 411, season 4, episode 11, titled War Never Looked This Good. And it reads as follows. The ultimate Southern athlete, Nikki Nashville, continues her impressive in-ring streak and takes on WoW's veteran Vixen Genesis. Monsters and Metals Chainsaw looks for a victory against the headliner Candy Crush. Did I read that right? Monsters and Metals Chainsaw looks for a victory against the headliner Candy Crush. I don't know when she got that nickname, but anyhow. As the feud between these two trios blazes brighter than ever. Right. In the main event, the Fab Four faction, Penelope Pink and Miami Sweet Heat, go head-to-head against Holly Swag and her family, Big Rig Betty and Jesse Jones. After all that these teams have been through, no one will leave this ring without some serious bruises. Man, I tell you what. When will this shit end? I'm sorry. None of that is I mean, the most that I'm relatively interested in seeing is Nashville and Genesis, surprisingly. And that's built on the back of Nashville, who hasn't said a word, mind you, and we still got a match where we know it never saw an end to it. But what I don't care about Candy Crush and Chainsaw is there is another match for a nonstop feud that just doesn't seem to have a finish line in sight. Holly Swag and her family, I guess they just accepted her back open arms without any sort of, hey, you did us wrong or this, the no. I mean, I know they cut the promo. I get it. And that's as close to an explanation as we're ever going to have. But there are times where WoW just does not seem to go through the natural order of stuff. They just kind of like, all right, well, off to the next thing. How many more singles matches do I have to endure with top tier? It's bad enough. Look, their strong suit is being a team. And they've already lost 3 in a row. So what do I need to see a 4th one for? There's no reason for a Chainsaw to lose when she can pretty much beat up the entire team on her own. And I'm sure that's not going to be the case, but, you know, they got to put her in jeopardy. But still, like, what? Why? Why? What is so hot about this feud? Well, for that matter, what's so hot about the other one? I mean, and I know they're trying to write this up and make it sound like, hey, man, this is going to be great. This is the feud that you've been waiting on. I was like, I'm not waiting on this nonsense. I saw them lose months ago. They didn't get the belts. They being Monsters of Metal, but I saw them beat the Trios champions. So why and clean. So why am I supposed to be invested in this still? Because of a doll that got repaired the next day? Why would I care? And then we got Swag and her family and the Fab Four. I mean, weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks of television that was dedicated to trying to get this feud over for a match that was completely unnecessary. As good as the cage match might have been, it was an unnecessary match. And I'm sorry, it was. It was an unnecessary match because in terms of what their angle was, the match was not, it was pointless. They didn't need to have it. And this same person that had turned on her mom, that had been presented as one of the most heinous people around, the commentator constantly calling out for being a troublemaker and all sorts of other things as just scum of a human being, now I'm supposed to be rooting for and feeling sorry about. Why? And I'm starting to see people, one in particular, Lindsay, that said she just gave up on this. I mean, those are her words, but it's like it's whatever hope she had that this might have been a good show, just died off. Zantara's probably right behind her. She's at least still doing the write-ups. And I'm pretty close to it if I wasn't in an environment that aired this all the time. There's nothing to get behind. There's no personal issue. There's no personality that you could really gravitate towards. All the baby faces on here, with the exception of Big Rigs and Bourbon, are almost complete idiots about stuff. And there's no stakes. At least when I used the example before, at least when Jessie Jones had her stick taken from her, she cut in a passionate promo about that. With this little Daisy, you never know that anything happened. It's not treated like anything happened. It's not treated like it's important, certainly. And that right there is the biggest difference that I could ever point out, or one of the biggest differences that I could ever point out between them and an actual wrestling promotion. when you have talent that's good enough to get something over that people can believe this is important to you. CM Punk. Best example you can have. What was that? Him and Drew McIntyre. And they're fighting over what? A friendship bracelet? But Punk's such a good promo that you understood why he would fight for that friendship bracelet. I mean, it was more than that, but that kind of embodied it within the bracelet. Here, they don't even bother to give you that. They couldn't even commit to having the doll torn up. Twice. Head ripped off, show back up perfectly fine. Head, arms, and legs torn off, show back up perfectly fine. So where are the stakes there? Why would you care or invest at all? WoW does not make it easy. They do not make this easy. It is just assumed that anybody that they put on their roster is a main event person or wherever it is that McLean slots him into, and you should just accept that. And that when they say that it's a feud that the world is waiting on, they're all on the edge of their seats for, because this is the hottest thing in wrestling, it's like he just wants you to accept it. I do not have to prove it to you. I don't have to build anything. I don't have to try to give you any sort of desire. And the worst part is that they almost can't, because it's all taped so far in advance and so out of the way that they can't even rely on audience participation or audience engagement to kind of drive who they think is good and who isn't. These things are already in the can from a year ago. So whether you cared about that person winning or not, it means absolutely nothing to what's going on in the creative. It is all at the whims of whoever's in charge of creative. And we know that basically comes down to two people, Selena Majors and Dave McClain. That's it. So overall, the matches, I can say I enjoyed. Stuff around the matches, just like always, not so much. If you are looking at this on YouTube, do me a favor, do the YouTube things, like, share, and subscribe. Checking this out as a podcast, your ratings and review do help, but not necessary, because, you know, if you happen to be checking this on our platform, or you just didn't know where to go, or you're not a particular podcast savvy person, to go to Spotify or iTunes or whatever other podcast platforms we may avail ourselves to, then you can just do the sensible thing, the next thing in line. You can go to WPNWrestling.com. WPNWrestling.com is the centerpiece and nexus of all things that we got going on. 24-hour day, 7-day-a-week stream of videos dating back to 2013 of talents that we've interacted with back and forth that have gone on to do big things. Multiple promotions, including WoW. Although some of those WoW talents that were there seem like they may no longer be there anymore. So, you know, we'll have to look into that as the weeks goes on. But nevertheless, the videos are there. They're always running. As are the podcasts. They all drop there. So there's no excuse. You can find it. And on that note, I will sit patiently and wait to see this next upcoming episode of WoW. Hopefully it will not drive me up a wall. And I will end by saying that this is Mr. Green saying that this is Mr. Green saying so long, and we will see you on the next go round. Take care, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the WPN's Rights and Wrongs of Pro Wrestling. If you have questions or comments, please contact us via our Facebook or our YouTube channel at the Women's Pro Wrestling Network. If you're new to the WPN, feel free to subscribe to our channel and like our page. We appreciate your support. Thank you again for listening.